Welcome back, everyone. Okay, I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because this explainer, it's literally going to transform how you look at human behavior. You know when you walk into a room and just instantly feel the tension? Or maybe you meet someone and immediately feel at ease? We always call it vibes or emotional energy, right? Like it's some sort of mystical sixth sense. But what if I told you your brain is actually processing those vibes in literal milliseconds? Today, we're decoding the unspoken, and we're doing it through the absolute game changer that is polyvagal theory.
So let's just tackle the big question right out of the gate. Can you actually read emotional energy? Well, the short answer is yes. Absolutely, for sure. But, spoiler alert, it's not magic. That gut feeling you get when you're interacting with someone, it's actually a completely measurable biological reality, and it's entirely governed by our autonomic nervous system. We are literally hardwired biologically to broadcast our internal states to the people around us and then pick up on their signals right back.
Which brings us to our foundational rule here. It's not a vibe, it's biology. Look, for decades, professional training has preached this idea of superficial body language, right? Like, oh, aggressively uncross your arms or hold intense, unblinking eye contact. But here's the rub. Those behavioral cues are so incredibly easy to fake or mask or just completely misinterpret. We really need to step away from those easily simulated tricks and step into actual, scientifically validated physiological states.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the biology of vibes, move on to the three color zones of our nervous system, and then uncover our hidden biological drivers. After that, we'll apply all of this to navigating work and sales, breaking the conflict loop, and finally, building your very own somatic toolkit. Let's get to it.
All right, part one, the biology of vibes.
So this entire framework is built on polyvagal theory, which really focuses on what we call the face-heart connection. It's wild, but your heart is physically wired to the muscles of your face, your head, and your vocal tract through 5 specific cranial nerves, including the trigeminal, facial, and vagus nerves. Because of this intricate wiring, the whole idea of a poker face is honestly kind of just a myth. I mean, sure, you might consciously uncross your arms to look super engaged, but that's just on the surface. Your biological reality, it's undeniable. Your actual emotional energy literally leaks out through your vocal pitch, the tiny microtones in your facial muscles, even the way your head is oriented. You are always broadcasting.
Moving right along to section 2, the 3 color zones.
Okay, so our autonomic nervous system basically works like a ladder. And to make this super easy to visualize, we're going to use something called the Modern Attachment Regulation Spectrum, or MARS for short. Right at the top of the ladder is the green zone, which is powered by the ventral vagal pathway. When you're hanging out in this zone, your heart rate is calm, your digestion is doing great, and you're naturally taking these nice, deep, balanced breaths from your diaphragm. If I'm talking to you from the green zone, you'll hear it. My voice naturally takes on this warm, melodic, approachable quality. My face is relaxed. Biologically speaking, I'm signaling to you that I'm safe, I'm social, I'm collaborative, and totally ready to connect.
But if your brain suddenly detects a threat, boom, you drop straight down the ladder into the red zone. This is driven by the sympathetic nervous system. Instantly, your heart rate spikes. And even if that threat is literally just an annoying email from your boss, your biology reacts like it's a saber-toothed tiger jumping out of the bushes. You get hit with this massive surge of cortisol and adrenaline. Your breathing shifts to shallow chest breathing. If I drop into the red zone, my speech is going to get rapid, a bit pressured, definitely sharper. My jaw clenches. In this fully mobilized state, I am biologically hyper-focused on the threat. I'm anxious, I'm defensive, and I am ready to react. And what happens if that threat is just totally overwhelming? Well, then we drop all the way to the very bottom of the ladder. Welcome to the blue zone. This is the dorsal vagal shutdown. At this point, your blood pressure completely drops, your breathing gets incredibly slow and shallow because your body is desperately trying to conserve metabolic energy. When someone's in this state, their voice usually goes completely flat, monotone. Their face might look totally blank or expressionless. They become withdrawn, avoidant, and just emotionally checked out. They are, for all intents and purposes, biologically frozen.
Now, what's absolutely fascinating about this breakdown is the strict biological hierarchy of these zones. You literally cannot leap straight from a frozen blue zone shutdown all the way back up to a happy, connected green zone state. There is no biological shortcut. It's impossible. A frozen system has to pass back up through the mobilized red zone, meaning it has to convert that frozen numbness into anxious movement before it can ever safely settle back into the green. And knowing this is a total game changer. It stops us from demanding immediate enthusiastic responses from a colleague or a partner whose nervous system is literally biologically frozen.
Section 3. The hidden biological drivers.
So you're probably wondering, how do we actually shift between these zones without even realizing it? Well, the first hidden driver is called neuroception. Think of this as your nervous system's subconscious radar. It's constantly, and I mean constantly, scanning your internal organs, your environment, and your relationships for cues of safety, danger, or life threat. And here's the kicker. It completely bypasses your conscious cognitive brain. So if you get stressed out and drop into the red or blue zones, your neuroception becomes heavily biased toward detecting threats. Suddenly, a totally neutral email from your boss gets flagged as a hostile attack, triggering all this defensive behavior before your thinking brain can even catch up.
The second major driver is the vagal brake. You can think of this literally like having your foot on the brake pedal of a car. When you feel safe, your vagus nerve acts just like that brake pedal, gently slowing your heart's natural rhythm to keep you nice and calm and socially engaged. But the absolute second your neuroception detects a threat, it pulls right off the vagal brake. Just like taking your foot off the pedal, your heart rate instantly accelerates to mobilize you for action. And this happens incredibly fast, long before stress hormones like cortisol have even entered your bloodstream.
All right, Section 4. Navigating work and sales.
If you really think about it, workplaces are essentially just giant, interconnected ecosystems of nervous systems. When a leadership culture is super unpredictable or highly critical, it is constantly releasing employees' vagal brakes. They drop into the red zone, get stuck there, and eventually collapse into blue zone burnout. And when that happens, you see a predictable biological crash in empathy and creative risk-taking. So to fix this, leaders have to deliberately build physiological safety. You can use steady starts, which just means giving your meetings a 60-second transition buffer so everyone's nervous system can settle before the demands start flying. Then there's the RU-DO process, which trains teams to recognize, understand, and diffuse biological stress before they even try to communicate. And absolutely crucial here, we need neuroaffirming practices. This means respecting direct, literal, or less expressive communication styles, which are super common for neurodivergent employees, as completely valid baseline states, not penalizing them or misreading them as aggressive threat cues.
Now, if you're in sales, applying this is an absolute superpower. Look, talking about money naturally pushes people right into the red zone. It just does. So to bypass those combative defenses, you can use the pull-push-pull somatic negotiation framework. When a client throws an objection your way, whatever you do, don't defend yourself. First, you pull by disarming them with a negative reverse. Something like, it sounds like you've already decided this isn't a great fit. That immediately drops their defenses. Then you push by gently presenting third-party outcomes, which shifts the focus away from a direct clash. Finally, you pull again with a graceful takeaway, using slower speech and intentional silence. That signals safety to their brain and brings the temperature right down.
Moving to Section 5, breaking the conflict loop.
Let's pivot slightly over to intimate relationships. Have you ever noticed how couples tend to have the exact same argument over and over and over again? Well, we call that the conflict infinity loop. It is quite literally a biological clash of two highly dysregulated nervous systems. On one side of the ring, you've got the protester. They are locked in the red zone. They're anxious, they're demanding attention, speaking super fast, basically because they have this deep fear of abandonment. On the other side is the withdrawer. They get completely overwhelmed by the protester's intensity, and their system just shuts down into the blue zone. They go totally silent and avoidant because they fear failure. So what happens? The protester's obvious panic violently triggers the withdrawer's freeze response, which triggers the protester more, and the loop just goes on forever.
To actually break this miserable loop, you have to stop arguing about the words and start addressing the underlying biological dysregulation. A great way to do this is with the RAVE Method. It stands for reflect back their emotion, accept their subjective reality, validate their feelings and context, and explore solutions together. The whole thing literally takes 90 seconds. You can also use this incredible visualization of a third chair in the room. Imagine that chair represents the relationship itself. By consciously having both partners look at that third chair, you instantly shift the dynamic. You go from fighting against each other to standing side by side, collectively protecting your connection.
And finally, Section 6, your somatic toolkit.
Here's the hard truth. Before you can ever successfully co-regulate with a partner or a coworker, you absolutely have to establish your own stability first, in real time. We call this the 75-25 somatic boundary. The next time you're in a conflict, I want you to try anchoring 75% of your awareness squarely on your own bodily sensations. Like, feel your breath, check your jaw tension, leaving only 25% of your focus on the other person.
You can even do the flashlight exercise. Imagine taking the flashlight of your attention and swinging it 180 degrees right back onto yourself. Even saying out loud, "Wow, I notice my chest is getting really tight right now," provides clean, somatic data that can stop an escalation cycle dead in its tracks.
Actually, let's do a quick check-in right this second. Is your jaw tense right now? Are your shoulders kind of creeping up towards your ears? If they are, try some of these beginner-friendly exercises to quickly re-engage your vagal brake. Just physically grounding yourself through your feet interrupts spinning mental loops. A paced exhale, where you literally just breathe out for twice as long as you breathe in, forces your heart rate to drop. The physiological side, that's a double inhale through the nose followed by a long sigh out the mouth, instantly releases tension. Doing vocal vibrations like humming or even gargling directly stimulates your vagus nerve. And doing a lateral eye shift, just looking side to side without moving your head, signals absolute safety to your primitive brain.
Wow, okay, we have covered a ton of ground in this explainer today, transitioning from this invisible, mystical idea of vibes to the hard, concrete science of our autonomic nervous system. Remember this: the facial expressions, the vocal tones, the physical responses you see in people every single day, they are direct projections of their internal biological zones. Which leaves us with one final, incredibly profound question to ponder. Your biology is always speaking. What is yours saying right now? Take a nice, deep breath, re-engage that vagal brake, and I will see you in the next one.